Hi friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books that I'm planning to read in the month of June. It is time for my June TBR. You should not be surprised to know that part of this TBR is going to be for the Queer Romance Readathon, which I am hosting. If you somehow missed the announcement video, I will link it up above for you. I've also had a couple of live streams with lots of recommendations if you're trying to build out your own TBR, but I'm going to be sharing with you some of the books I may be reading during the readathon. Will I get to all of these? I don't know, we'll see, but I'm going to get to as much as I possibly can. And then of course I've got lots of other books I'm going to be reading during the month as well, so it should be fun. But first up, let's talk about the book that I'm reading for my Patreon book club this month. I'm really excited about this. We had to make kind of a last minute change. Every month my patrons get to vote on a book that we read together. It varies by genre. The problem is that the book that we had originally picked for June, the author had originally published as a YA fantasy romance, indie published, and she's pulled it down and is reworking it into an adult fantasy romance. So we are pushing it back to later in the year, and instead the book that patrons voted to read is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I'm so excited about this. I feel like this is going to be a delight to read for June for our book club. It is a cozy slice of life fantasy about a sapphic couple who open a coffee shop together, and I could not be more excited to read this. I feel like it's going to be great. A novel of high fantasy and low stakes. Also, this is one of my favorite covers that I have seen all year. Can't wait to read it. It's gonna be fun. Every month, some of my higher tier patrons get to vote on a book that they want to see me do a reading vlog for, and this month they voted on Bunny by Mona Awad. I don't know much of what this is about except that it is weird, and Kayla from Books and Lala really loved it, and yeah, so I will be reading this. Stay tuned. Should be an interesting time. Then I've got two books that I'm reading for read-alongs. Myself and Leanna at Leanna's Library are doing a year-long read-through of the Sword of Truth books by Terry Goodkind. For June, we are reading The Faith of the Fallen, which is, I think, book 6, and we will be back over on Leanna's channel to discuss this at the end of the month if you want to join us. And then on Chapter 3 podcast, which we co-host, we're doing a year-long read-through of all the First Law books by Joe Abercrombie. And in June, we are reading The Heroes, which is one of the standalones, so we'll see. Stay tuned. We'll have a whole episode about this discussing. See what I think. Next, let's talk about the books that I have for review that I'm planning on reading in June. I have Teen Killers in Love by Lily Sparks. This is the sequel to Teen Killers Club, which was a lot of fun. It was very campy and over the top and melodramatic YA. The sequel comes out in August, so if I'm not able to get to it in June, I'll read it in July, but I'm gonna try to get to it in June. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I am also planning on reading The Memory of Souls by Jen Lyons. I am working my way through this series, although as I'm filming this, I have not yet finished reading book 2 in the series, but tentatively, I'm planning on reading this one in June, or at least starting it. Another book coming out in August is The Bruising of Kilwa by Nassim Jamnia. This was sent to me for review by Tachyon, and it says, in this intricately layered debut fantasy, a non-binary refugee practitioner of blood magic discovers a strange disease causing political rifts in their new homeland. Persian-American author Nassim Jamnia has crafted a gripping narrative with a moving, nuanced exploration of immigration, gender, healing, and family. Very excited to read this one. Sounds great. I am also planning on starting Kid Trailblazers by Robin Stevenson. I'll be reading this one with my kids. I really love this entire series of books. We've read a bunch of them, and this is the newest one coming out in August. They do little, like, kid-friendly biographies of important people, and it looks like for this one we have people like Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, Shonda Rhimes, John Lewis, Benazir Bhutto. It'll have like a whole bunch of different ones illustrated. This is an advanced copy. The final copy will be in color, but this was sent for review from Quirk Books, so thank you to them. Then from Red Hook and Orbit, I have The Book of Gothel by Mary McMine. This is coming out in July, and this is the story of Mother Gothel, the witch who put Rapunzel in the tower. I really like a good villain backstory, so I'm hoping this one will be fun. From Tor, I've got Up Against It by Laura J. Mixon, writing as MJ Locke. This is part of their Tor Essentials line where they're putting out these nicer editions of modern classics in sci-fi and fantasy. I haven't read from this author before, but it sounds really interesting. It's like sci-fi noir from what I understand. It's got some like criminal stuff that the main character is investigating. I feel like it's gonna be good. And then the last physical thing I have for review, also coming out in July, is A Half-Built Garden by Ruth Anna Emrys. At least that's not going on my Queer Romance Readathon TBR, because I do have one book for review going on that. But this I'm really excited about. They're comparing this debut author to Ursula K. Le Guin, which sounds great. And this is climate fiction meets First Contact. So very excited to check it out. Last physical thing on my TBR before I get to my Queer Romance Readathon books is I'm hoping to read Queer: A Graphic History by Meg John Barker and Jules Scheel. This is a nonfiction graphic novel about queer history, and Pride Month seems like the appropriate time to read this. I really like graphic nonfiction and it looks interesting. Moving on, let's take a look at some of the things going on my Queer Romance Readathon TBR. Now, I'm gonna say, it's only a week long, so am I gonna realistically read all of these? No, probably not, but this will give you an idea of some of the things that are at least on my radar that I may be picking up. The one that I will definitely be reading is the group book. This is Drag Me Up by R.M. Virtues. It is an indie published erotic romance and a modern retelling of Hades and Persephone. In this rendition, our Persephone is a Black trans woman who is kind of some kind of a circus performer, I believe, and our hero is involved in the underworld. He is a demisexual Black Hades, and I feel like this is gonna be good. I've heard good things. The other thing I'm definitely gonna be reading before it comes out in July is A Strange and Stubborn Endurance by Foz Meadows. This is a queer fantasy romance that was sent for review from Tor. Byzantine politics, lush sexual energy, and a queer love story that is by turns sweet and sultry. A Strange and Stubborn Endurance is an exploration of gender, identity, and self-worth. It is a book that will live in your heart long after you turn the last page. Very excited for this political fantasy romance. And then for a smattering of other books that I may read. Just Like This by Cole McCade. This is a male-male romance by a gay Indigenous Asian author, or Indigenous Black and Asian. I'll check. But this has been on my TBR for a while and I've been wanting to read it. Ryan's life as the art teacher to a gaggle of displaced boys at Albin Academy should be smooth sailing until the stubborn, grouchy football coach comes into his world like a lightning strike and ignites a heated conflict that would leave them sworn enemies if not for a common goal. A student in peril, a troubling secret, and two men who are polar opposites but must work together to protect their charges. And he's a little bit younger, the other guy is older, grouchy, sunshine. It sounds like it's a lot of fun. Then I have a novella. This is The Sorcerer of Wild Deeps by Kaya Shante Wilson. This is a male-male fantasy romance that would also fit the prompt for Queer Black Love by a Black gay male author. Since leaving his homeland, the earthbound demigod Demain has been labeled a sorcerer. With his ancestors' artifacts in hand, the sorcerer follows the captain, a beautiful man with song for a voice and hair that drinks the sunlight. The two of them are the descendants of the gods who abandoned the earth for heaven, and they will need all the gifts those divine ancestors left to them to keep their caravan brothers alive. So yeah, that's definitely on my radar, one that I may pick up. I also have Drowning in Fire by Craig S. Womack. This is a gay romance by a gay Indigenous author, and I think it's also part coming of age story, so it follows a guy from his youth through adulthood. I think this one is a little more hard-hitting, but reviews looked good. Then we have Girl Next Door by Chelsea M. Cameron. Opposites attract, sweet and sexy small town romance with a small town girl and the girl who comes back riding a motorcycle. It seems like it'll be fun. Another novella option is Mrs. Martin's Incomparable Adventure by Courtney Milan. This is a sapphic romance between two senior women and it is a historical. I know I'm not going to get to all of these. There's just so many I want to read, but like, we'll see what I can do. Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding by Chensia C. Higgins. This is another one that's part of that Karina Adores line. So was Just Like This by Cole McCade, but I've really been wanting to read this. This is also a 2022 release. It came out early this year, and it's got a sapphic fake relationship for a reality TV show, but they really catch feelings. I feel like it could be really good. And then the last physical one, I just want to read all the things. I know I'm not going to be able to read all of them, but I want to read all of them. We have Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I mean, this cover is everything. Another small town, sister's best friend, romance. I really want to read it. One other that I'm probably going to read because I have an audiobook of it is Femme Like Her by Fiona Zeddy. This is another one that is queer Black love, a lesbian author, and an author that I've been meaning to read from for a while. She writes a lot of Black lesbian romance, and so I've been wanting to pick this up. And then I also have an advance copy of a book coming out in August called Ben and Beatrice, which is a queer modern day romance inspired by Much Ado About Nothing by Shakespeare. And it looks great. So I may pick that up. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I know this is a little excessive, but we'll see what I can do. I do also have some NetGalley books that I need to get to at some point. Again, will I get to all of these this month? I don't know. Did I write down the author names? No, but we have Nobody's Princess by Erica Ridley. This is a Black historical romance that looks great. We've got The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This one is a reimagining of The Island of Dr. Moreau by one of my favorite authors who's kind of an auto-buy for me. We have Youngblood, which is a YA queer vampire at a elite boarding school sort of scenario and secret societies, which sounds really fun. We have How Maya Got Fierce. This is a YA contemporary coming of age story by Sonia Cherapotra. Accomplished, I don't recall the author's name, but this is a contemporary Pride and Prejudice inspired YA romance. And then lastly, we have The Accidental Pinup, which is a contemporary romance with a plus-size heroine that looked really adorable, and she's a photographer, and I think it looks fun. Gosh, so that is a lot of books. Am I actually going to read all of these in June? Probably not, but I have an array of things to choose from, and I will be reading many, if not most of them. Lots of exciting things happening. I'm so excited for the readathon that we're doing. It's just gonna be a good time. And you know, we get to celebrate Pride all month for June. It's gonna be fun. Editing Bethany here. I completely forgot to mention, I'm also planning on participating in the Queer Lit Readathon, and I will link down below the details for that if you want to join in. It's happening the week before the Queer Romance Readathon, so I'm going to try to get in some more queer books through that. My plan is to get a bingo with 3 books. To meet the prompt of reading a queer science fantasy book, I'm planning on reading Nova by Samuel R. Delaney. This I heard about from Michael over at Fit to Be Read. It is a modern classic of sci fantasy by a gay Black man. Gay relationships are a little bit more under the radar because of the time that he was writing in, I think was like the 60s and 70s, but planning on reading that. Then for the prompts of reading a nonfiction book and something about LGBT history, this graphic novel I mentioned earlier fits perfectly, so I'm planning on reading it that week. And then lastly, to meet the prompt of a neurodivergent main character, I'm tentatively planning to read Work For It by Talia Hibbert. I love Talia Hibbert, and this is one of her indie published romances that is male-male and includes some kind of neurodivergence or mental health things that the characters are dealing with. It's a little hard to tell for sure from the description, but based on the reviews I'm seeing, I think this might meet that prompt. So that is my plan, and I hope you will also join the Queer Lit Readathon. Talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know any of your thoughts or feelings on anything I talked about in this video. And for your question of the day, tell me what your reading plans are for June. Are you doing anything special for Pride Month? Are you joining in the Queer Romance Readathon? Are you picking up any more queer books than you normally would? Let me know your plans in the comments down below. If you like this video, it does help if you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.